Hello there, and welcome to the first episode of the Bizcast this year. I'm your host Hugo, and in the first episode we're going to be looking at what the investment banking division is. So today I'm joined with Bailey Oram, who is spring intern at Jefferies and incoming summer analyst, and he's going to give us a little bit of an insight into what the role entails. So hello there, Bailey. How are we doing today? You doing good, yeah?
Hi Hugo. Yeah, doing very well, thanks. Happy to be here, happy to be talking. So yeah, let's get into it.
Great, let's get into it. So Bailey, just to kick us off, can you explain what the investment banking division actually is, and maybe the different teams that are within the division?
Yeah, of course. So in investment banking, your primary function is to upsell a company to another company or to a board of investors. You're really kind of just a salesman for companies. And within that you have your mergers and acquisitions team, who are more focused on selling a company to another company. So running through the numbers, crunching them down, valuing this company and saying, I predict it's going to be worth this much in the future, or I predict it's going to make this much cash year on year in the future, and then selling it to an acquirer who maybe is using it for a strategic purpose or just to make more money in the future. Then you have the ECM team, the equity capital markets team, and they look at what's going on in the markets more in a sort of top-down way. What's going on in the markets? How does this relate to the company and my client that I'm working with? And then how do I issue shares and equity of this company to either raise cash for the company or, sell lots of the shares and raise the shareholders some cash as well. And then you also have the DCM team, which is debt capital markets, and you're more looking at kind of upselling the company again, but based on its future cash earnings to investors that lend money to the company. So you raise debt for a different company, and then show how likely that company is to be able to pay back the debt at X interest rate over a couple of years.
Great. So just out of interest, what was it that drew you to IB in particular, rather than, I don't know, maybe asset management or sales and trading, like a different area of finance?
So I come from engineering, so I always thought I was more kind of markets focused, whether it was asset management, whether it was kind of sales and trading. But I think why did I go into IBD? It was literally just I was lucky enough to get myself a couple spring weeks, lucky enough to network with enough people, and I think that the kind of project-based work and also the people that I met within IBD were more suited to kind of the people that I wanted to be around and the workload that I wanted to take on. So it was just a case of I was lucky enough to go out there, talk to enough people, actually get a taste for the work from a couple of spring weeks that I did in various different divisions, and then just understand, right, I think I'm more aligned with doing IBD, or I'm slightly more captivated by that style of work. So I think it's just each to their own. Go out, talk to people, figure out what it is that you really want to get behind and do, and what style of work suits you the best.
Great. Bailey, what are the different types of firms you can work at in the investment banking division?
Yeah, so you kind of get your bulge brackets, those larger than life, big banks that have a massive global presence, lots of staff, lots of employees, and pick up a lot of deals every year. So you can see 2 to 3 juniors working on every deal. You have slightly larger deal teams, and your workload will be high. Well, as you'd expect for investment banking. Yeah. And then you've got your mid-market firms. So your mid-market firms, sort of like your Houlihan Lokey, your Jefferies. And those sorts of firms are slightly smaller, deal team-wise, which means as a junior, as an analyst coming into the bank, you'll get slightly more exposure to deals. You'll have slightly more of a connection with those people senior in your team. And I think with terms of like career progression at a mid-market firm, probably be slightly more accelerated and be expected to take on more responsibility as a young analyst, which I think also means that the workload could be slightly increased. But that's another size of firm that you could work at. And then they have elite boutiques. These firms work on very similar deals to your bulge brackets, but they are slightly smaller in size. And again, because of that, as a junior coming into the firm, you'll have increased workload. And a lot of it is sort of the business that those seniors bring to the bank through very like long-lasting connections. That's why people favour boutiques to get really great service. And then you have your slightly smaller firms, corporate finance houses, and things like that across the UK who also do very similar functions to the investment banking division, but more in a corporate finance side. So you'll still get mergers and acquisitions, and there'll be different regional offices across the UK. And we actually at Biz offer an exclusive internship with one in Bristol called Shaw & Co. But that is your very typical mergers and acquisitions, corporate finance type experience. So keep an eye out, and there'll be applications for that coming up in the future.
Can you run us through what a typical day might look like as an investment banking analyst and what sort of tasks that you'll be working on?
Yeah. So as an analyst, that junior role, you'll be less client facing. The more experienced people in the bank will do kind of the delivery and the pitches, but you are very much expected to come along, learn. You'll have 1 to 2 juniors on every deal, like I said before, and you'll go along to those meetings. You'll understand the company, but the real crux is you'll be doing that kind of the grunt work, the slide decks, the models for the companies. You'll be crunching the numbers, putting together the decks, and making that kind of marketing material for the company that you're trying to upsell for those MDs and those VPs to be able to deliver.
Great. So maybe the VPs or like the MDs, they maybe have like more like a top-down sort of view of the deal, just a more kind of general view.
As an MD, your real kind of focus is right at the end of that investment banking journey is just bringing business to the firm, connecting and maintaining relationships with clients, and sort of understanding where your client is, and then advising them off the back of the work that those analysts and associates kind of do beneath you.
What sort of person do you think will thrive in investment banking?
Yeah, I think someone who's charismatic and somebody who's passionate about the work they're doing and the companies that they're working with, that's always going to help. I mean, it's going to help in any job. You've got to buy into and be excited about the work that you're doing. Otherwise, genuinely, what is the point? Yeah. But yeah, I think somebody who's excited, naturally charismatic, someone who's quite a good, enthusiastic talker as well. And then I think, in addition to that, someone with good attention to detail and somebody who is a good speaker as well, being quite concise, being efficient, being prompt and on time with things. That's super important in the investment banking world. Like, just be organised, organised, because you're going to have a lot of things to juggle at any one time.
Because you work on probably, I don't know, a few deals at a time,
Yeah.
and then you might also have to prepare something internal, so you need to be able to time manage.
And then I think also somebody who's quite resilient, because I guess anybody who hears about investment banking is no stranger to, you probably will have to work quite a lot of hours, and especially at like crunch time when you're trying to get a deal over the line. Just someone who's determined, someone who's motivated, and somebody who's focused on the work, keen to get something over the line, and quite diligent, hardworking, I think.
So obviously, as we've already talked about, there are different teams. You've got the mergers and acquisitions team, and then you've also got the ECM, DCM, the capital markets teams. Would you say the skills at all differ between those teams, and one person might be more suited to one than another?
Yeah, I'd say, like, fundamentally, it's all very similar. You have the same core skills, despite each team focusing on, maybe if you're in ECM, looking at kind of current affairs and markets slightly more than somebody who's in M&A.
What are the exit opportunities like coming from the investment banking division? Maybe compare, are they any different for someone working in mergers and acquisitions compared to capital markets? Yeah,
so the exit opportunities, you kind of hear the common, most frequently tread route is somebody goes into investment banking, maybe most commonly in M&A, mergers and acquisitions, and then pivot after a couple of years into private equity. So two sides of the same coin, sort of. In mergers and acquisitions, you're sort of on the sell side, selling the companies, and the people buying the companies are usually big private equity houses or other companies, and that's where you'd pivot to. There's also different exits within the same firm. So maybe you work in mergers and acquisitions and it's not really your gig, and you might think it's a better idea to do something like lateral to a team that's more suited to you, which might be in capital markets, be more markets focused, or maybe even lateral across the firm into its sales and trading division or into its investment management or asset management division. That's also quite a commonly trod route, and firms do put in place a lot to kind of help you do that if you are interested in the space, because they know that you're at the firm, you're a high quality candidate, and you'd be useful in a division that you'll be more interested in. And then also you have kind of the exit to corporate development, where you might go and work in-house for a firm and be that kind of strategic financial consultant that's looking at bolstering a firm up and getting it ready to exit, and getting that firm ready to be sold on and get its shareholders some cash. And then maybe for somebody in capital markets who's more markets focused, is you might pivot towards investor relations or working in sales and trading on the sales side.
So that brings us to the end of this episode of the Bizcast. Thank you very much, Bailey. We've learnt a lot about the investment banking division, and best of luck at Jefferies next summer.
Thank you very much, Hugo. Cheers.
Thank you.